Hello everybody, Plato here, and I hope you're all excited and ready for that Worldslayer launch happening on June 30th. However, before we get to that point, let's take a look at the new PAX Trees they mentioned in that launch trailer. Now for this video, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Trickster PAX Tree. If you want to go ahead and take a look at the PAX Tree for Pyro, Technomancer, or Devastator, they're going to be linked in the description down below, and the raw file for the images for the Trickster PAX Tree is going to be linked in the description down below as well. I did also want to mention that we only have a maximum of 5 PAX points to spend on these new trees, so do keep that in mind. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started and take a look at our top PAX tree, the Spectral tree, with the first node, Damaged. Damaging enemies with the damage skills, which include Temporal Blade, Twisted Rounds, and Cyclone Slice, will go ahead and increase your damage by 15% for 5 seconds. Our second node is going to be Adaptation, which I think is quite interesting. Activating skills grants you a 15% anomaly power or firepower for 5 seconds, depending on which of them is higher. So whether you're a firepower build or anomaly build, as long as one value is going to be higher than the other value, you're going to go ahead and get a 15% boost for that value, which I think is pretty darn nice. Again, free damage is free damage, and we're extremely happy to see that here. For our third node, we have Reactive Shielding. Activating skills increases your damage mitigation by 5% for 6 seconds, and this will stack up to 3 times for a total of 15% damage mitigation. Moving on to our fourth node, we have Phasing. Activating skills grants you a 15% shield and 10% shield for your allies. Additional survivability for you and your teammates is always welcomed, and honestly, as a node that we're forced to take, it's not bad at all. Our next node is going to be Great Expanse, which is going to go ahead and extend the distance considered to be close range by 2 meters, pretty much giving us a free introvert in a class node, which will be pretty interesting to test out when I get a chance to. And now that we know 3 mods are a thing, I'm going to be actually interested to try something like even adding introvert, go ahead and extending that to 14 meters and see how that affects our damage. It'll be exciting to see if 4 meters is going to make that much of a difference when we're playing a close range character like Trickster. Now this one I'm actually really excited about, the Quantum Entanglement node. All enemies in close range share 10% of your weapon damage. Now is this going to be similar to Pain Transfer, where all enemies in close range will share that 10% damage, as I'm blasting the enemies? Or is it going to be some sort of tick damage, where as long as you're in close range to those enemies, they just take tick damage of 10% of your weapon damage? Something interesting to see when we actually get a chance to mess around with these nodes when Worldslayer launches. Moving down, we have Superposition. Increase your damage mitigation against elites by 20% during and for 3 seconds after using a movement skill, which includes Hunt the Prey and Borrowed Time. Now personally, I think Superposition is just okay. However, this is a required node to go on to our next node, which is going to be Special Tactics. Special Tactics, damaging elites increases your damage against elites by 4% for 3 seconds. Effects can occur once per second and stacks up to 20 times. Personally, I'm super excited about this Special Tactics node because it really plays to the aggressive playstyle of Trickster, right? Because, let's be honest, 99% of the times when you're playing Trickster, you're going to be up and close to that enemy, and when you're up and close to elites, this is where Special Tactic is really going to go ahead and increase that aggressive playstyle, because you can go ahead and chain damage and kill elites to stack up Special Tactics. So for example, by the time you get to like your 4th or 5th elite, you're going to have a good amount of stacks of Special Tactics stacked up, so for those elites, it's going to hit them extremely hard. Moving forward to our Harrowing node, which increases your resistance piercing by 10%. Each enemy in close range will also increase the bonus by 2% up to an additional 10%. Now from a Firepower Trickster main's perspective, this could actually be interesting, but will require more testing when Worldslayer launches. If you guys forgot, remember when we activate Twisted Rounds, it infuses our bullets with anomaly-based bullets, which will go through resistance piercing as opposed to armor piercing. So will be interesting to see how much damage we'll actually get with this node, or if it's even worth taking if the damage is minimal. Same thing is going to go ahead and apply to AP builds. We'll just have to wait and see until we can go ahead and test these for ourselves with gameplay. Moving to our final node in the Spectral tree, we have Spectral Spike. Damaging skills have a 100% chance to deal additional damage equal to 15% of your anomaly power. Consecutive triggers on the same enemy stacks dealing more damage up to 750%. Now something we have to remember with PCF is their wording, and sometimes this can be extremely convoluted because if you recall earlier when we looked at the damage node, it actually listed with visuals what skills are considered damage skills. Here in Spectral Spike, That is not the same case. We don't see any damaging skills listed. Maybe this can apply to certain mods like a little bit of pain. However, at this point, this looks pretty damn good for twisted rounds, and it looks extremely fun for Cyclone Slice. But again, with PCF, we have to take all of these nodes that we go ahead and read with a grain of salt, because we know that sometimes things can get lost in translation, and we truly don't know what anything truly means until we can actually test it with gameplay. Heading to our bottom PAX tree, which is going to be the exploiter tree, let's go ahead and take a look at the first node, which is Triggerman. Your damage is increased by 10% for each skill on cooldown. Nice! I also wanted to add how good the first nodes are on both the top and bottom tree for Trickster. Trickster doesn't get access to many damage multipliers other than Trespasser, so these multipliers are going to be very nice. Next, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Cheap Shot. Your class melee skills lowers damage enemies' armor and resistance by 30% for 4 seconds. This is going to be primarily used for AP builds, as you can go ahead and weave in a melee before using your damaging abilities to get that additional bit of damage towards the enemies, more so elites. Heading to our next node lies Deception. Activating Deception skills grants you 25% shield every 1 second for 4 seconds. Deception skills include Slow Bubble, Venator's Knife, and Time Rift. This is going to be a 100% shield over 4 seconds that will get depleted as you take damage. Our fourth node for the Exploiter PAX tree is going to be Fail-Safe Protocols. When your health drops below 30%, get 100% shield and 30% damage mitigation for 3 seconds, and this can apply every 10 seconds. This is a node you are forced to take if you want to progress this PAX tree forward, and for a node that you are forced to take, while I wouldn't say it's amazing, if you're struggling with survivability, it's not a bad choice because you don't got a choice. For our next node, we have Rigged Game. Activating skills increases your critical damage by 10% for 5 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. This means we can see up to a maximum 30% increase in our critical damage for 5 seconds. Now, the current meta for Trickster is all about shotguns, so landing critical damage isn't going to be that applicable. However, as we move on with the rest of the nodes on the bottom part of the Exploiter PAX tree, we are going to see that there is going to be incentive for us to use assault rifles. For node number 6, we have Infinity Slinger. Sidearm weapons do not consume ammo during and for 4 seconds after using a movement skill, which includes Hunt the Prey and Borrow Time. I just want to quickly know which one of you boys at Babylon slipped some cash to the devs at PCF to make this node happen. Next, we have Goals Beyond Understanding. Damaging done to elites tagged with deception skills has a 25% chance to be increased by 200%. These will affect Slow Trap, Venator's Knife, and Time Rift. So what does it mean to be tagged? Well, I'm going to assume that this means affected by the skill, so either inside the Slow Bubble, tagged by the Venator's Knife, so you see the icon above the enemy's head, and for Time Rift, it gets a little interesting. As we know, Time Rift can be effect resisted by elites, and during spawn animation of certain elites, they won't actually be floating, aka being affected by the skill. Now, we have certain mods like Geiger's Wave where the Time Rift does not need to float the enemies in order for the vulnerable to apply. However, we also have mods like A Little Bit of Pain where the damage won't apply if the enemies are not floating. So it will be interesting to see if this is going to be a Geiger's Wave situation where this will still apply as long as you hit the enemy with Time Rift, or a situation like A Little Bit of Pain where they actually have to be floating for the effect to apply. Moving forward, we have Meticulous Schemer. 200% of killing damage on enemies tagged with deception skills, which again include Slow Bubble, Venator's Knife, and Time Rift, is divided amongst the other tagged enemies. So the same concerns I have with Goals Beyond Understanding will apply to Meticulous Schemer as well. Other than that concern, this looks to be quite an interesting node. This node seems to have been inspired by Pain Transfer, which goes alongside Time Rift. Rather than it being damage done while enemies are affected by Time Rift, it's 200% of killing damage with a deception skill. Now, one of the things we love about PCF is the great amount of detail they go into the class notes to make it easier for us as players to figure out what does this even mean. So how does PCF define killing damage? Is it going to be the entire damage during the time we take to kill that enemy, or is it going to be the last shot / skill we use when killing that enemy? We're just going to have to be patient and wait until Worldslayer launches so we can do our own further testing. Our next node is going to be Power Overwhelming, aka Anomaly Enhancement Light, increasing your firepower by 40% of your anomaly power when using an assault weapon. Earlier, when we were looking at Rigged Game, I did mention there was going to be incentive using assault rifles on this bottom tree, and this is going to be the second to last node that gives us that incentive, the last node being the final node on this bottom tree. Taking a look at our last node, we have Perpetuum Trickery. Critical shots increase your anomaly power by 12%, stacking up to 5 times, with a maximum stack up to 60%. The stacks are then consumed by the next damage skill you use, which includes Temporal Blade, Twisted Rounds, and Cyclone Slice. The second part of this last node reads, activating damage skills increases your assault weapon damage by 30% for 7 seconds. Now PCF with the bottom exploiter tree really wants you to go ahead and try using assault rifles for tricksters. I'm not sure how viable that is going to be until we see the full details of what Worldslayer has in store for us with those new legendary weapons, with those new legendary armor sets, to see how this is all going to come together. One thing that comes to mind that I will mention is this is going to be pretty lackluster for Cyclone Slice, and here's why. You're going to be using your assault rifle to get those critical shots to increase your anomaly power by 12%, stacking up to 5 times, so again up to a maximum of 60%. Then you're going to use the next damage skill to consume those stacks to get an increase in your damage for the next damage skill that you use. If you happen to use Cyclone Slice lasts for a 5-second duration on default, so then you only have an extra 2 seconds to actually take advantage of the assault weapon damage increase you get for 30%. So if you're going to be using this node, either do it with Temporal Blade or Twisted Rounds, or both Temporal Blade and Twisted Rounds. And this is going to go ahead and bring us to the end of the new 2 PAX Trees for the Trickster class with the launch of Worldslayer coming this June 30th. Anything that we currently see here can still be subject to change, as this is not the final version of the game, so do keep that in mind. If you guys want to go ahead and check out the PAX Trees for Pyromancer, Technomancer, and Devastator, you can see them popping up on your screen now, or check out the links in the description below. As usual, thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and until the next one, peace.